Hello and welcome to Views on News. I am Jawad Tehami. Now, Pakistan has demanded the de facto Afghan authorities, the Afghan Taliban, to arrest and try the entire leadership of banned Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan for their involvement in March the 26th attack on the Chinese engineers in Bisham in Pakistan. Now, while addressing a press conference along with the coordinator of NECTA, Tahir, Interior Minister Mohsin Naqvi said, let me quote, evidence of Afghan linkage to the Bisham attack had been shared with the Afghan government, but unfortunately, no positive response has been received so far. Unquote. It was also made clear during the press that if the Afghan government fails to act, the relations between the two countries, Pakistan and Afghanistan, will not move forward. The Interior Minister has once again reiterated that Pakistan attached great importance to its relationship with China. Once again, reiterating Pakistan's strides and efforts Pakistan is taking in that particular direction in order to provide security and ensure their safety while they stay here in Pakistan. Earlier, we had seen there was an important presser by Director General Inter Services Public Relations, Major General Ahmed Sharif also, in which he has also clearly said that that particular attack was planned in Afghanistan. The bomber was an Afghan national. The attack was carried out by the banned Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, which continues to operate from Afghanistan despite repeated demands by Pakistan to take action. And Pakistan has shared evidence with the Afghanistan's government, but no action has been taken. Also in that very particular presser, the DG ISPR also alluded to a very important fact that Pakistan has helped the Afghan interim government at all levels, but the promises they made in Doha do not seem to be fulfilled. The agreement clearly states that Afghanistan's territory will not be used against any country. But there is strong evidence that this is happening. After that, we saw there was a statement by the Afghan de facto Ministry of National Defense spokesperson saying that Afghans are not involved in such matters. Now, specifically talking about the presser that was held by Interior Minister Mohsin Naqvi and coordinator of NECTA, Tahir, that particular demand which has been made now is not a new demand. Earlier we saw that caretaker Prime Minister Mr. Zia Ul Haque also made the similar demand that if the interim Afghan authorities, the de facto authorities in Afghanistan, the Afghan Taliban, can't take any concrete action against the militants, the terrorists of banned Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, then it should hand them over to Pakistan. Now, this particular demand has been once again repeated by Interior Minister Mohsin Naqvi. Will be bringing the panelists to discuss this important thing, this particular demand. What are the options? Earlier we saw there was a pattern on the part of the Afghan authorities of the denial of any Afghan national in the terrorist attacks which were carried out in Pakistan. For that, we are honored to have been joined in the studio by Dr. Zia Ul Haque Shamsi. He's senior analyst. Mr. Shamsi, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. On the phone line at the same time, we are honored to have been joined by Lt.Gen retired Talat Masood. He is senior analyst. General Masood, thank you very much for your time, also for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Dr. Shamsi, if you allow me, let me begin the discussion with General Masood. General Masood, now this particular demand, what do you think? Are the Afghan Taliban going to act as what Pakistan has demanded, given the fact there has been a repeated pattern on the part of the de facto authorities in Afghanistan? They've been denying that the TTP was not operating from the Afghan soil. It is the problem Pakistan has to deal by itself. What's your understanding if the Afghan Taliban don't comply with this particular demand, what Pakistan has made with irrefutable evidence that has been shared with the de facto authorities in Afghanistan? Where do you see this particular equation heading in the future?
Firstly, I think it's very clear that Afghanistan is trying to be evasive and not facing the reality or telling us things which are not really correct, as far as the ground situation is concerned. Because the TTP is, by all accounts, by evidence from every source, points to the fact that they are present in Afghanistan and operating in Afghanistan, close to the Pakistan borders, and then using Afghanistan soil or land to attack Pakistan, and have complete freedom of action within Afghanistan to operate the way that they want to against Pakistan. What sort of a friendly country is Afghanistan? Especially when Pakistan has made, so much of sacrifices even in order to sort of support Afghanistan to get liberated, and had good relations with the Taliban leadership. So I think the Taliban leadership is flouting international and national laws and giving freedom to these people is completely unacceptable, and points towards the fact that it would be very difficult for Pakistan to maintain good relations. And it could lead to certain sanctions also, and if that happens, Afghanistan and Afghanistan people will also suffer, because everything that has to pass through Afghanistan or has to go to Afghanistan, most of it has to pass through Pakistan. And Pakistan has always been highly cooperative. So that is one aspect. The other aspect is that why is it that they are so, in a way, obliged to the TTP? On one hand, they actually try to give an impression as though they are the champions of ensuring that the law of the land is completely sacred and will be protected. And then on the other hand, they allow these CTP and other forces to operate from Afghanistan into territories with such hostile and indulge in such hostile activity.
Right, General Masood, when we talk about this particular demand by Pakistan, it's been once again repeated by Interior Minister Mohsin Naqvi. Already we saw during the caretaker setup, the caretaker Prime Minister Zia Ul Haque made similar sort of a demand. Now, do you expect any sort of seriousness when it comes to whatever has been the pattern? We know for a fact there has been a pattern of repeated denials on the part of the interim Afghan authorities, and then very important presser that was held by DG ISPR also right after that. Again, that very denial came from one of the spokespersons of the key ministries there in Afghanistan. After this particular repetition of the demand, do you think the Afghan authorities might give it a consideration to think about it with a different approach this time around?
Well, hopefully they should, but I have my serious doubts, because there is nothing that was preventing them earlier to have handed over those people. They know fully well. They are very aware of that. Their state is not a normal state. It is so much under control of the Taliban. Nothing moves there without their consent. And it is simply impossible to perceive or conceive that, these people are operating without the support of the Taliban, or their eyes closed to their activities. So I do not believe that, unless there is a change of mind and they realize that Pakistan could take certain measures, punitive measures, in the sense that it can retaliate in a similar way of trying to block, transit trade and so on and so forth, which would adversely affect Afghanistan. Pakistan has all the leverage at its command to do so. But Pakistan naturally would not, because it would affect the poor Afghan people. And so I think I just, to be honest, do not understand what sort of a self-destructive policy and also harmful policy for Pakistan is being pursued by the Taliban government.
So don't you think they have that understanding that they, with such an approach, especially towards Pakistan, who has been sacrificing so much for the people of Afghanistan, the de facto authorities in Afghanistan are pushing themselves towards more and more isolation with every passing day?
Yeah, they are already isolated, and as I think you will agree with me, they're the only two countries which have some sort of a relationship with Afghanistan and have been trying to be helpful under very difficult conditions of Afghanistan. is China and Pakistan. And it is surprising that they don't even realize that. And I'm sure that China would also be pressing Afghanistan that as to what sort of a policy you are pursuing against Pakistan. Today you are doing that against Pakistan. Tomorrow you'll probably behave similarly against China, for that matter. Although they dare not, they know the consequences. So I think Pakistan will have to retaliate in some ways to pressurize. I do not mean that we should harm the people of Afghanistan, but I think we should find some way of pressurizing the Afghan government to conduct themselves according to the laws, international laws, and behavior of a good neighbor.
Right, General Masood, if that particular approach and the pattern on the part of the de facto authorities in Afghanistan continues, despite Pakistan highlighting this particular problem at the international fora, also trying to pressurize the Afghan government to fulfill its international obligation as per the Doha Peace Agreement, and if even then that pattern on the part of Afghan Taliban continues, then what sort of options could be tried when it comes to the authorities here in Pakistan?
Well, I think Pakistan has already threatened that in case this continues, we will have to cross the border and get into Afghanistan and get hold of these people who are trying to, do harm to Pakistan, especially the TTP, which has its roots in Afghanistan and has bases in Afghanistan. And I think Pakistan will strike at the basis of TTP in Afghanistan. And it has already warned, and I think it has once or twice, shelled them also from Pakistan and also slightly tried to intrude into Afghanistan. But that was only as a sort of a warning to Afghanistan that if this continues, then we will have to take strong measures. And I think there has been a statement also from Pakistan military as well as the Foreign Service that this is totally unacceptable and Pakistan will have to take retaliatory measures.
Right. Lieutenant General Retired Talat Masood, Senior Analyst, joining us on the phone line. Thank you very much for taking time out for Views on News tonight. We really appreciate that. For now, we are honored to be joined by another participant on Skype, Mr. Zahir Shah Sherazi is Afghan Affairs expert. Mr. Sherazi, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on Views on News tonight. We really appreciate that. Mr. Sherazi, we are joined in the studio by Dr. Shamsi also. If you allow me, let me proceed towards Dr. Shamsi first, then I'll come back to you. Dr. Shamsi, now this particular demand on the part of Pakistan's authorities, once again, trying the top leadership, or the entire leadership, in fact, of the banned Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, the demand put forth towards the Afghan Taliban, the de facto authorities there, and also handing them over to Pakistan. What's your understanding? Do you think after the repetition of this particular demand, is there any chance of consideration on the part of Afghan authorities that they might change their approach towards Pakistan rather than denying this time around? They should consider some concrete action against Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you, Jawad. It really pains me to say that I do not have very high hopes with the interim government of Afghanistan because they have not fulfilled any of their promise done in Doha Accord. Pakistan was one country which not only facilitated the dialogue but also supported them all the way. And Pakistan actually, if you recall, celebrated when the Taliban assumed the government. And it really hurts when the cross-border terrorism continues, rather expands its wings across Pakistani territory all the way. And honestly speaking, if you look at the pattern, none of our country, none of our cities or the institutions or the establishments are safe from these attacks, because in this particular case, the terrorists have the initiative. They have their links inside Pakistan and they have safe havens in Afghanistan. So, they have freedom of choice, they have freedom of action, they pick and choose the target and time and attack. Pakistan has really been very sober in its response. It has always followed the diplomatic means to convince the interim government that this is what was not expected out of them when they assumed the government in Afghanistan. However, we never received a positive response, and it's historically, if you notice, after 9/11 also, when US asked them to hand over Osama bin Laden, they refused. So, and they got the country destroyed for last 20 years during US occupation. But they did not take any action against Al Qaeda, and they fought alongside, and they did not hand over the Al Qaeda leadership. Likewise, TTP, once we have submitted confirmed intelligence reports and evidence that TTP was directly involved in the Bisham attack, Taliban interim government should have taken an immediate action against TTP, number one. Number two, should have assured Pakistan that we will share the action taken information with you, and should have counseled Pakistan that give us some time. They might be having some capacity issue, but here now it is not evident that they have capacity issue. Why? Because as General Saab said, they have total control over the country and nothing moves without their permission. So, that means they, if they want, if they have willingness to control TTP operating from their soil into Pakistan, they can always do it.
So, what do you think? We've seen them claiming to have conducted big operations against the Islamic State Khorasan, right, eliminating some of their key commanders also. Why not similar sort of an action against the Band Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan?
Because they don't want to do it. They don't want to do it. They continuously, I mean, that's what I said, that it pains me to say that Taliban are hell bent in hurting Pakistan actually. They are now hurting Pakistan. And I don't know why. Because Pakistan is one country that has been on their side since 1996, and I've always supported them. Always supported them. But I don't know what is their policy and whose behalf they are acting in this way. In their actions against Pakistan, whether verbal or practical, are always hostile. I mean, the moment Pakistan raises its demand, the immediate denial will come without any investigation, without going through any evidence that Pakistan always provides. They would say, no, 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 this is not true. So, they do not have the willingness, they do not have the intent, which is very unfortunate. And it is inconceivable that Pakistan, for one, will be considered as an enemy by the Taliban government. I mean, this is perhaps one reason that why Taliban is not Taliban government is not being recognized, only because their attitude. I mean, we have been helping them in every ground, on every facet, in every domain, be it education, be it health, be it wheat provision, be it the transfer of funds, be it what do you say, transit rate, but the response from them is not positive at all, and this is very unfortunate.
If this particular thing continues, what options would be there for Pakistan in the future? I'll come back to you. Let me bring in Mr. Sherazi also into the discussion. Mr. Sherazi, now this particular demand of arresting and handing the entire leadership of Band Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan to Pakistan, do you expect any sort of a positive consideration by the interim Afghan authorities this time around?
Well, thank you very much. As Shamsi Saab was saying, perhaps they are not willing to do it. And this is the main reason why the trouble is increasing in the Pak-Afghan bordering areas. And to be very straight, I think so, Pakistan must be building up the pressure. And this should not be only, putting demands and asking the Taliban to hand them over. I think a lot of Saudi Arabian investment is coming. Then we have Chinese BRI and CPEC project, which is very crucial for them as well. And I would just say, like, even the Chinese government has taken up the issue of the ETIM, as Shamsi was saying that perhaps soon some of those militant groups would be starting threatening the Chinese interest, but they are already, because of some of the sources I have contacted inside Afghanistan, perhaps the ETIM has very much got active, and this Bisham attack was very much linked to the overall law and order situation, especially for the Chinese interest. They are working on dams, they are working on different projects. So this is one point. Second, Saudi Arabia, who had promised a lot of investment in Pakistan, how we are going to protect it if the TTP, the ISK, the Daesh, the ETIM, the BLA, the BNA, they are all there. And now I think our intelligence reports are there, and even some independent sources have confirmed that now they have got into a nexus. This is one side of the story. So I think if Pakistan really wanted to get rid of this TTP leadership, and not only TTP, the ISK, I think if we go to the data, in the last 1 year, most of those attacks which were carried out in Pakistan, they were claimed by the ISK. And so it means they are in one nexus. So I think we should be using our influence with Saudi Arabia as well as with China. So they should be pressurizing the Kabul regime to get rid of these hostile militant elements, because according to Doha Accord, they had, time and again committed not to allow their soil to be used against Pakistan or any other countries. Then another aspect is that
please go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to continue. Merely asking them to, stop or hand over the leadership, it won't work. Third, a very serious option is that of the coalition troops, especially led by the United States. Why they are quiet? If there is a hostile government, they are not allowing the girls to go to schools. The law and order situation is, day by day, it's worsening. Attacks in Pakistan are increasing. So I think Pakistan has sacrificed a lot for the coalition and the US-led war on terror in this region. So I think Pakistan should also be using its influence on the United States. So I think these 3-4 countries, if they can, and even the UAE and Qatar, who have an office, both the US and the Taliban offices are just nearby in Qatar. So why not? So I think it's not just demands. I think Pakistan should now expand the sphere of pressure. And even if these countries are not willing to side Pakistan, help Pakistan, I think the situation is getting worse. And as we gone to the other side of the border and targeted the militants, perhaps Pakistan has equal right. And I think Kabul government is not in a position to deny that if there is any militant activity, I think it should be cooperating with Pakistan. There should be intelligence sharing with them. And if they are not willing, how they are likely to get the the international community's assistance on and the donor agencies. So I think there are different multiple pressures. Pakistan should utilize those contexts, and those pressures should be increased on the Taliban government if they really wanted to get benefit from the international community. This is one point. Another issue which I think the Taliban leadership is openly now supporting the TTP as well as other hostile groups who are operating inside Pakistan. And there is no denying to the fact that if we would have implemented the national action plan and could have gone directly against those safe havens, especially in the urban areas of Pakistan, those sleeper cells, those supporting the militancy, and they are also funding the militancy, if it is in the form of the TTP or the BLA or the BNA and even the ISK. Perhaps I think we should have multi-pronged strategy. It should be aggressive. It should be aggressive towards the TTP, and I think the Kabul government. And the last thing, I think Kabul should also be, we should also be contacting them in friendly terms as well, because we are neighbors. So we have to be very realistic. If only putting demands and requesting, I think it won't be helping out to get rid of militancy and law and order, improve the law and order situation in the Pakistani tribal areas as well as the settled Pakistan.
A number of very important points, Mr. Sherazi, you have highlighted, specifically talking about the incoming investment. When we talk about specifically about China, Pakistan being the part of BRI, having the flagship project here, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Now we are also expecting the investment coming from Saudi Arabia. Also, we've got the SIFC. There have been a lot of engagements on that front. As per your understanding, now who doesn't want this investment to come into Pakistan and actually give Pakistan a dividend in the future to come? Firstly, and secondly, if you identify that, are those the same peace spoilers as we saw during the Afghan peace and reconciliation efforts?
The very important thing is I am looking at different aspects of this problem. First, I think, as Shamsi Saab was mentioning, that perhaps Taliban don't want to take action. This is one side. But yes, this is also true that Taliban don't have a writ on most of those areas, which are the no-go areas, between Pakistan and Afghanistan, especially in the Kunar province, Paktia, Khost, Paktika, and also along with the Chaman areas, where I don't think so the Taliban government have their writ. So this is another problem. So they are unable to take action. Second, importantly, the ISK factor is very important because the Daesh and those militants, they are also a threat to the Kabul government and their stability. So they should realize that they are threatening too. Some of my sources are saying that the ETIM, they have now joined hands with the BLA, BNA, and those militants who are trying to create law and order situation in Balochistan, in Sindh, and particularly they are targeting the Chinese interests. So I think this is a very serious issue, and this is quite an organized network. Another point, how these militants are getting those sophisticated weapons, those latest equipment, those night vision goggles, and those night vision guns. So this is also a very serious thing. More than $10.5 billion of those leftover weapons in Afghanistan. This is also a serious issue. And I think China, without the involvement of Chinese government, Saudi government, and even the US authorities, I think we should now, in clear-cut terms, convey to them that, yes, cosmetic measures inside Pakistan are very good. The USAID and other development agencies are supporting the universities and colleges and the revenue and all this thing, and they are just supporting the WSSP. And they are doing some investment in the sanitation and again in the health sector. Actually, we need law and order to be in order. And for that, I think not only the US, the coalition troops, as well as all the countries who have stakes in this region, they must help out Pakistan. Another issue, which I say would be very important, the SIFC. I think it's very, very important for the future of Pakistan, the future progress of Pakistan. If BRI is important, SIFC and the mineral exploration is very important. Where are those minerals? Mostly in the tribal areas. In North Waziristan, in South Waziristan, you have the copper reserve there. You have the gas reserve there, Spinwam 1 and 2, there are the huge projects. Then obviously Chitral, why was Chitral targeted? Because you had, a lot of those sophisticated lithium and even uranium kind of deposits there. So I think militants are trying to create law and order situation to target Pakistan's economy, whether it's the mineral resources or the natural resources or it's the BRI. So you have to keep in mind why they are targeting. This is very serious. And I think the political parties might have a will. I think so. The Interior Minister do have a vision. He's a competent man, but obviously have to engage the military authorities as well. I think we should be very straight now. We should be talking to the Taliban fighting forces as well, to what they are doing, why they want to destabilize Pakistan. And last but not the least, I think the Indian factor, you would not be ruling out that. I'm not saying that for the sake of it, we are always bashing India and it should be an Indian bashing argument. But yes, Indians are very much linked up with even directly cooperating with the Kabul government. They're offering the Afghan students and health seekers as a on-arrival visa, and Kabul is in talking terms with New Delhi. So this is a very serious issue. Now, the last thing, we already have people like the Hizb Islami Hikmatyar group is in that coalition government. Sirajuddin Haqqani's son is a very key situation. We have the religious elements here. I'm not speaking about the religio-political parties, but yes, there are religious leaders. The Haqqaniya Madrasa, I think their leadership would be, speaking to them. You have to, if you want a stabilized Pakistan, I think you should not be going for the conventional negotiation type of an activity, just calling them and asking them to hand over the Taliban and their leadership. It won't happen. So you have to use all these multiple channels if you really wanted to get rid of this issue. And the third important issue. Now, we have lost the Afghan transit trade, and it is diverted towards Iran. And it was a very wonderful, very useful visit of the former Iranian president. And I think it could have been utilized even to pressurize Afghanistan, which is doing most of the Afghan transit trade business with Iran. Central Asian states are very important. I think if Shamsi Saab agree with me, we have to take them into confidence, because this militancy of IMU and the TPI, so this is very serious. This is also very serious for the Central Asian republics. So destabilize Afghanistan with no writ of Kabul on the peripheries. It is seriously threatening Chinese interest, the Pakistani interest, as well as the Iranian interest and the Central Asian states. So I think Pakistan have a lot of choices, and I must suggest they should be utilizing those.
Right. Dr. Shamsi, now the regional approach, should Pakistani authorities be focusing more on the regional approach, or also at the same time be looking forward towards the United States of America? We have seen their high-ranking officials repeatedly expressing their unequivocal, unconditional support to Pakistan in dealing with this menace of terrorism also. Which option carries more weight for Pakistani authorities in the immediate terms?
In fact, Shah Saab has been very forthcoming. He has pointed out a number of options and number of issues, and the government of Pakistan must consider them. Very invaluable inputs that Shah Saab has given. My opinion is little on the other side. I am a peace activist, and I do not believe in recommending warlike actions, because I believe that we should win the war by other means, because we do not want to hurt the poor people of Afghanistan anymore. They have suffered enough over the past 40 years. However, Pakistan has suffered much more than any other state due to Afghan crisis ever since 1979. We have not suffered that much from the eastern border as much we have suffered from the western border, which we never anticipated and never expected. Anyway, it has happened. There is no country that has this much experience of fighting terrorism as much Pakistan has in the world. So we do not need anybody's help, number one. This is our problem, we need to resolve it ourselves. The world owes us help. It is not that we should be requesting them. They must come forward. Why? Because we were there when they needed us. So therefore, the US-led West should themselves come forward to assist Pakistan, and we will handle it, number one.
Okay, so I'll stop you for a second over here. That's quite an ideal scenario. They should themselves be coming in supporting Pakistan, and Pakistan was there when they required Pakistan's help. Now, so we have seen those statements in the recent past. Since the Kabul takeover by the Afghan Taliban, we've seen them giving the statements. In what manifestations or forms do you expect that support coming, if they consider it coming by themselves rather than on Pakistan's request?
In fact, I am losing hope on that. Why? Because we are living in an era of neopolitics. I have recently coined this terminology. It's a hybrid deployment of geopolitics, geostrategy, and geoeconomics. Here, nobody knows anybody, and here we are not sure, rather the nations themselves are not sure what is in their best interest. That is what neopolitics is. and this is what is happening in Afghanistan at this time. Shah Sahab has pointed out number of organizations that are operating. He has also hinted at the capacity issue that I also mentioned, that Taliban government may have capacity issue on the peripheries. But in that case, they must come out clean, and if they need assistance from Pakistan, we will be willing to do it because it is hurting us. However, while the diplomatic maneuvers must continue to take place and the hybrid actions must continue to take place, we must be prepared for intelligence based offensive operations, because it is hurting now. We have evidence, we have intelligence information, we are doing the surveillance, we are gathering information, and we have the capability and capacity. Without any fratricide, we can take them out.
You can take them out, yet the support would be always welcome. What about the leftover highly sophisticated weapons after the international troops withdrawal that have gone into the hands of these militant groups?
Please tell me, who was responsible? Did they not know that when are they leaving Afghanistan? Did they not know that there is a 20-month period from the Doha agreement till the hasty withdrawal? They knew it. Why did they leave it there? They left the stingers earlier, and this time they have left almost everything. Did they not know that Taliban will take over after they exit? Because this is what the Doha agreement was. They have done it deliberately.
29th of February 2020.
Yeah.
And then on in August, on 15th of August, they went.
Yeah.
There was the hasty withdrawal, right?
Yes.
So
20 months period. Yeah.
So even after this much span of time, why the international troops made a hasty withdrawal?
Yeah, because they did not have the exit strategy. The Trump administration signed Doha agreement. However, when the Biden administration came, it was not willing to withdraw. And that is why they did not prepare themselves for a controlled withdrawal. And it was at that time also, it was Pakistan that safely evacuated not only the Americans, but many European troops, many European workers. It was only PIA and military aircraft from Pakistan which were able to land at Kabul airport, bring them into Islamabad, Rawalpindi, station them into our military messes, hotels, hostels, and safely send them back home.
Right.
There were many countries, including UN, which appreciated Pakistan's effort. But now, it is the new.
It happened. There was division as far as the approach of exit from Afghanistan was concerned within the ranks of the American administration at that particular time.
Absolutely.
The things are on the record, some high-ranking officials opposing it at that particular point in time. But it happened.
It happened.
Now, the fact is that the leftover weapons are there at the hands of the terrorists. Is there any mechanism to retrieve them and take them back, or what could be ideally done about it?
No, not. Because most of the weapons are being used by Taliban themselves, which is a de facto government. It is only a part of those weapons which are in the hands of TTP and other terrorist organizations. If Taliban want, if they have the intent and sincere intent, they can still withdraw those weapons from those people. Otherwise, outsiders cannot do it, whether it is the US or the Pakistan. We cannot do it. We can take them out, but we cannot snatch the weapons, because de-arming is always very difficult.
Pakistan has got that will, the capacity. Pakistan has been through hard times already. Pakistan has defeated terrorism already. Now, after this Kabul takeover back in 2021 by the Taliban, there was a resurgence of terrorism here in Pakistan. Pakistan's will capacity to take them out alone, or do you expect if this particular pattern on the part of the Afghan de facto authorities continues in future, also Pakistan keeps getting hurt from that particular western border also? Is that the option to put the boots on the ground once again in the form of any sort of a coalition? Perhaps it could be a regional one or an international one.
I will not go for that. I will not go for that. People of Afghanistan have suffered enough. And Taliban, there is no doubt, they have fought for their people valiantly for more than 4 decades. All right? We must respect that. At least I do.
Right.
But it does not mean that you hurt your brothers, your friends. Let's say there are no brothers in international relations, but there has been no other country more friendly than Pakistan to this Taliban government. That's what I am demanding, that they must have respect for people of Pakistan, for the government of Pakistan, for the military of Pakistan that has been with them throughout these 40 years.
Right. Mr. Sherazi, you already raised 2 very important points. The weapons left over in Afghanistan because of that hasty withdrawal of the international troops. Firstly, how to go about dealing with this particular problem? Is there any way these weapons could be retrieved, or the kind of suggestion that has been put forth by Dr. Shamsi? What's your understanding regarding that? And you also pointed to a very important fact regarding ETIM, then ISK, and then BLA, a lot of militant and terrorist organization coming into nexus, right? They've already got the hold of those highly sophisticated NATO caliber weapons. But doesn't a natural question arise over here? Where are they getting that funding from in order to operate so frequently with such an intensity? Where do you identify where that the funding is coming from?
Well, first coming to the weapons, I think these small weapons and night vision goggles and the night vision guns and anti-aircraft guns, this is a not very serious issue. I think the militants have left over, the U.S. coalition troops have left their Chinook and even some gunship helicopters and some Cobra helicopters there too. And some of my inside sources are saying that perhaps there are Indians, aerotech engineers who are trying to rebuild and rehaul those aircraft as well as the gunship helicopters and the military equipment which is lying there. So that would be a very serious problem for Pakistan even. If a hostile Taliban government is in Kabul, I think we would have very different kind of an activity on the western border once they start, operating. The second thing, the weapons, most of the time, these weapons were lying here and there and actually dumped in different areas. And when the U.S. troops and the coalition troops were running away from Afghanistan again, and they were just, boarding the aircraft, they left the entire weaponry there. And as I had been there after the takeover of Taliban, and we have seen most of those militant groups in different parts of in Paktia, Paktika, Host, Nemroz, Kandoz, and even Mazar Sharif, they had those weapons. So it means like after the leftover of the U.S. coalition troops, they took over those light weapons, maybe heavy weapons they might have. And a little bit of, yes, most part was also handed over to the Taliban government, or maybe the weapon, reports were handed over to them, but still the hostile militant element, they do have a lot of them. Now, it's not possible to, again, we can say that we can recollect the weapons and destroy them until and unless the Kabul Taliban are willing. But again, I think this is a very serious issue. We have to take it very seriously. It's not only, the active military attacks or the militants attack, but also the western border is getting volatile because of another activity, which is in the form of a water war, which the Kabul government is likely to launch against Pakistan, and that is the distribution of water, distributaries on the western border. They are building dams with the help of the Indian support, technical support as well as the financial support. So this is also a serious issue which the Pakistani authorities should be keeping in mind. Again, what you were mentioning, that how they are going to, take up this issue, and the funding issue. The funding issue, you have sleeper cells, you have sympathizers, not only in the Pakistani side, but you have the hostile militant elements who have sympathies with the TTP and other such like militant elements. And then last but not the least, the Balochistan issue. I think you have a lot of funding which is directly being channelized from the foreign hundi and illegal channels, and it is coming from different Middle Eastern countries through Balochistan, maybe in cash, maybe through smugglers. So there are multiple reasons. We can mention a number of them. And the timber, you won't be surprised to see a huge timber mafia which is operating on the Pak-Afghan border, especially along Chatral, Upper Tir, Lower Tir. They are also a huge source of funding, not only to the militants, but also doing the weapon smuggling, as well as the narco smuggling and the timber smuggling. It is more serious threat to Pakistan, even, and most of the countries. So we have to look at
Very important
multiple
points highlighted by you, Mr. Sherazi, Mr. Zahir Shah Sherazi, Afghan affairs expert. Unfortunately, we are short of time. I'll have to end the show over here. Thank you very much for taking time out for the show tonight. Dr. Zia Ul Haque Shamsi, senior analyst, thank you very much for your time, sir. Also for being with us on the show tonight. We really appreciate that. With that, we come to the end of today's episode. Till the next one, take good care of yourselves.